What's up, guys? We are back with another G.I. Joe Classified review, taking a look at a figure that a lot of people were wondering why in the world was he not in Wave 1, and then he became the source of, I don't know, great frustration because of the whole network thing that occurred, and now we've got 3 different versions of Cobra Commander coming to us. So we've got the standard retail release here. Of course, we've got the Regal Hasbro Pulse version, and then the Supreme version that was supposed to be an SDCC thing, because this figure is just a bit of a mess when it comes to his release. So we've got him here in our standard style packaging for the classified line. Figure in the window, tons of artwork all over this box. So you've got a shot of Cobra Commander down there in the side. On the side, it's on the box itself, you've got a larger shot of Cobra Commander, and then on the other side, you've got kind of those icons that showcase what type of character he is, and then the back of the box has that large print style piece that showcases a bunch of other characters and a bunch of other potential figures alongside figures we've already gotten. So let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here he is out of the package, our classified Cobra Commander figure. Definitely one that, I mean, everybody's been looking forward to, just to get this particular character in the series, because, you know, we all kind of thought he was going to be in Wave 1. At least that would make the most sense, but he's the flagship character in Wave 2. So yeah, this guy's pretty interesting. He's kind of weird when it comes to articulation, but he's very much standard for the line, if that makes any sense. There's just some things about him that strike me as odd, and it's more or less just sort of weird, really. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but it seems odd by comparison to other figures. So as far as articulation goes, let's just get started and do the thing. We've got a head that does not really look up too far because his helmet hits his neck pretty quickly, but he does look down really, really good. And then you've got tilt side to side slightly, not too much. Rotation. Arms go out at the shoulders, of course. They do rotate in there. You've got this little like pauldron that comes over him. This hinders him on his left, your right. The right side, your left, is fine though. And then you do have a butterfly joint. Pretty decent range. I mean, it doesn't allow him to go too far over his chest, but it's still a nice range of motion. You've got your bicep swivel. We've got double jointed elbows, and this is one of the areas that just seems kind of weird. Like, that's a janky looking joint. It just looks odd. It's functional. It's incredibly functional, really, but it looks weird, and that's basically what it comes down to. Aesthetically, it's not pleasing, but that is a serious bend right there. So it does move really well. It's just odd. And then you've got your hinges and rotation at the wrist. This is a lateral hinge over here. This one is a vertical hinge. We've got an ab crunch, and mine is really, really tight. So he goes forward a little bit, and he goes backward some. Probably going to break him. There we go. So he goes backwards a little bit too. This click right here, the actual cut is really, really tight. There is just an incredibly small amount of tolerance there. There is a ball peg at the waist, so he does swivel. He's got this rubber overlay piece from the cut down as far as the diaphragm goes, so this sits over top of his hips. And at first I thought he didn't have anything there, but he does have the ball peg, so you can twist him all the way to the side if you want. You do have a little bit of drop down at the hips, but not much. And then legs go out about that far. They cut at the thigh, of course. You've got double jointed knees, and these are another area where it's a weird looking joint, but it's really functional. And it mostly comes down to the fact that it sits right at the top of this boot, so I don't particularly like the way it looks, but it works. It's also got the big, I guess, eyesore for me that they are just covered in letters that denote which side they go on. So these are all covered in L's, and this one's all covered in R's into the sculpt. So the mold and people who are assembling the figures know which is which. I get it, it's important, but I can't not see it on this figure for some reason. And then you've got rocker and you've got hinges down at those ankles. You do also have a boot cut up here as well, before I forget to mention it. So you can swivel at basically the base of the knee is where it looks like it's swiveling, but it's actually further down in there. It's just because of the fact he's got those big walk-in boots there. So he does move pretty well. I mean, the only true area where he might have any real hindrances is the head, the neck. The rest of the figure moves pretty well. It's just that he's got some wonky looking elbows and wonky looking legs, but he does move really well despite that. Now aesthetically, this guy he's kind of all over the place because there's just a lot going on here. I'll say right off the bat that I kind of wish we had gotten the hooded version of Cobra Commander, just
because that's what I think of when I think of Cobra Commander a lot of times. That's the version that immediately comes to mind, but I'm perfectly happy with this because we all know that we're going to get every version of Cobra Commander that they can squeeze out of us when it comes to this line. So you want a hood, you're going to get a hood. It's just not right now. So this guy is very regal looking, which of course plays into the aspect of the regal color variant and that whole mess, I should say. So we've got, this version, the Regal version, we've got the SDCC or the now PulseCon version. So there's 3 different versions of this figure coming already. And I do think that I prefer the color scheme on the Regal version, that lighter blue, just a little bit better aesthetically speaking. It's more of a personal preference. But this figure, I mean, I think he looks pretty snazzy. I'm really happy with the way he turned out. There's a ton of different texture on him. So he's got like snakeskin almost up here on his pauldrons, at least this pauldron, and then of course the side over here and on the arm. You've got various layers of metallic paint for the silver, for the trim. You've got the Cobra logo emblazoned on his pauldrons here, or his gauntlets rather. You've got the gold foil on his Cobra logo and the chain, and then the frills on the pauldron here. There's just a lot of little different kind of detail here that really makes this guy stand out, especially when he hits the light and he kind of shines, so you can kind of see different finishes on the figure, especially when it comes to like this little half cape that he's got. It's really shiny, so it kind of clashes with the more matte nature of the figure itself. You've got more of that snakeskin kind of deal going on down here on the legs, and then at the midriff section. He's just a pretty interesting looking figure. I just like the way he looks, is really what it comes down to. The sculpt is really well done. Paint accents are pretty well applied. I don't have anything that jumps out and says this is a problem or there's some slop here and there. Everything is pretty clean and crisp for the most part. I could maybe use a little bit more red on the stripes on the pants, but otherwise he does very much have a solid paint application through and through the body. And there's just, again, a lot of stuff here, from the ribbing on the strap here to the holster itself, or the sheath for his sword, which we'll talk about the sword here in a moment. And it's just a cool look for Cobra Commander. It may not be the one that I specifically wanted, and that really is mostly the head for me, but he looks really cool, and he definitely looks like someone that should be at the head of this massive terrorist organization, because he certainly looks like a leader, and I think it comes through really, really well in his design. And speaking of the head, because I mentioned it a couple times already, this might not be my preferred version of Cobra Commander, but he looks pretty cool, and it's a very nice stylized helmet for this guy. I do think there is, however, a little bit of an issue when it comes to the edges of the helmet as they come down towards what would be like the mouth or the chin area. They do look like they're slightly askew. One is definitely drooping a little bit more, and I know this is an issue with other figures, other folks and their figures, that they've seen this happen to them, maybe with varying degrees of severity. Mine seems to be pretty minimal, and it's not really bothering me, but it's definitely something that I can kind of pick up on. Otherwise, though, I think he looks really good. The black markings on the side look really good. The little bit of line work that's on there is really nicely sculpted, and then that silver is really nice. I mean, it very much is metallic, and it's really deep and kind of cakey almost, but not in a bad way. So it's a very thick application of silver. At least that's what it looks like to me. And I think it really ties the figure together. It brings all of those silver accents up to the face and really draws your attention. It's definitely one of the things you see first when it comes to this figure. And again, it may not be the version I specifically wanted, but I think we've got a cool look for this guy despite that. Now, as far as accessories goes, Cobra Commander has a decent amount. He comes with a few hands to start with, so we'll talk about those. And what's on him right now, we've got a trigger finger hand on his right, so a gripping trigger finger hand on his right, and then you've got a fist over here on his left, of course your right, and then we've got a couple of extra ones to swap out. So we've got this kind of interesting gripping hand for his left. So this is a very stylized gripping hand. What I use it for, at least what I intend to use it for, is to have him holding onto the handle or the hilt of his sword as it's down here at his side, and he can very much get into that kind of pose really well. So you can have this right here, and he's grabbing onto it without actually like kind of tugging at it too hard, so it's a loose grip, but it can also be used as a style pose hand. And then he's got a pointing finger hand for his right. So you got 4 total hands in this box. I really do like this. I enjoy anytime we get a finger pointing hand for figures, because you can always use it for something weird or something goofy, but then you can also make it into something really serious or intimidating, especially when it comes to this kind of figure. So it's cool to get that. Then we've got this kind of very flintlock-esque style pistol here. So it's done up in the same style of silver that the mask, the helmet is, but it's a little bit more shiny too. You've got a snake handle for the, for the handle of the gun, and then it's just very much a flintlock style pistol. You've got a lot of kind of ornate designing in here. I'm not so sure that I really care for this in the context of everything else we've seen in this line. This thing really stands out as a weird accessory because it seems so dated, but at the same time this could really just be an ornamental thing too. So it very much seems, again, kind of like a regal thing. It kind of all ties back to that look and feel for this guy. So I'm not too keen on the overall design, at least in the context of everything else we've gotten, but it seems to fit this version of Cobra Commander, or at least what they're going for. And then we've got this guy here, and it's, it's been on him the entire time. So we've got this sword here that it's got a really, really wicked looking blade on it with a lot of sculpt in there, surprisingly. You've got this kind of handhold here on the blade itself, and then you've got a Cobra, or a King Cobra, I should say, handle here done up in gold to match all the frills on his suit. And then of course you can pop this guy back into the sheath on him, and it fits in there really well. It's actually quite tight on mine, but he fits in there perfectly. It's not going anywhere once it gets in there, and it looks really great at his side. So he does have a pretty solid spread. It's not a ton of accessories, but I think they're very specific and very purposeful when it comes to this figure. So overall, this is a pretty solid looking figure. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. It looks really good, and it's a very specific type of look for Cobra Commander. Again, I don't know that that's exactly the road they meant to go down when it came to that regal variant, but this guy very much looks regal. He looks so much like some sort of totalitarian terrorist dictator, and I think they've really sold the idea of just how evil this guy is. He comes with a pretty solid array of accessories. Sculpt is tremendous. Paint applications are really well done. He does have some wonky looking elbows and knees. That's not a huge deal. They're still quite functional, but they do just look kind of janky when they are fully extended. Otherwise, though, I am really happy with this guy. I would have loved to have gotten him in Wave 1, but of course he is very much the flagship character for Wave 2, so much so that they triple packed him into the case. So hopefully he won't be too hard to get once the wave is fully out there. So that's going to do it for this look at the G.I. Joe Classified Cobra Commander. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.